My mom always said my entire life ran on luck. When I ranked first in my class, she said, "You just guessed." When I won a gold medal, she said, "The judges must have been blind." When I got into Westridge University, she told everyone, "This kid has no real ability, just good luck." So, on my college, she tossed me a book of scratch cards. "Since your luck is so good, you might as well let it handle your living expenses. You get one book per semester. However much you win is all you get. And so you can't come crying to me about being broke. I'm blocking you now. I'll add you back next semester." With that, she ignored all my desperate pleas and blocked me on every platform. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't even manage tears. All I could do was scratch 2 cards every day. On good days, I'd win $20 to $50. Most days, I won nothing at all. I survived by sneaking expired cookies out of my roommate's trash. By the last week of the semester, I had developed severe anemia. Using every ounce of strength, I scratched the final card and left. Mom was right. My luck really was incredible. I was so hungry, I saw stars. Everything doubled in my vision. The book of $20 scratch cards my mom had given me felt like a countdown to my death. Only one card remained. The $30 I'd won earlier, despite being extremely frugal, eating nothing but plain bread and canned soup, had lasted at most 2 weeks. My stomach felt like an invisible hand was squeezing it tight, cramping with pain. Clinging to one last shred of hope, I called her, dumping cold water over my head to stay conscious. I was still blocked. She hadn't added me back. With no other choice, I borrowed a stranger's phone and dialed her number again. "Mom." Before I could say anything else, her sharp voice cut through the line. "If I remember correctly, you still have one scratch card left, don't you? Don't come crying to me about being poor. If you're so capable, do what you did when you got into college and won those scholarships. Use your luck." The call ended abruptly. When I tried again, her phone was off. The last scratch card in my hand suddenly felt unbearably heavy. I didn't dare scratch it. I was terrified it would be another loss. At the start of the semester, my weight had been normal. Now I was severely malnourished. At 5 feet 5 inches, I weighed only 73 pounds. Blue veins showed through my skin. There wasn't a trace of color in my face. When I got back to the dorm, no one was there. I walked unsteadily toward the trash can. Out of habit, I checked to see if my roommates had thrown away any leftovers or expired food I could salvage. I had spent most of the semester surviving like this. Just as I started digging through the trash, someone pushed the door open. "Elena, why are you going through the garbage again?" "That's disgusting." My roommate Danielle Lynch. Her voice made my face burn with shame. I jerked my hand back as if I'd been burned. She glanced at the scratch card on my desk and immediately understood. Disgust filled her eyes. "I really can't believe you. How can you be this addicted to gambling? You'd rather buy these things and dig through trash than eat real food. If you love scratch cards that much, at least get a part-time job so you can afford to eat properly." She scoffed. "Whatever. My bad luck for ending up with a roommate like you." With that, she looked at the cake in her hand. Only one bite left, then tossed it into the trash and walked out. I was dizzy with hunger. My head buzzed. I had no energy to think about whether she was trying to help me or humiliate me. I lunged at the trash can like a starving animal and grabbed the cake. I devoured it. As I ate, scalding tears fell, mixing with the crumbs. Salt and bitterness filled my mouth. I couldn't blame her. She didn't know that before the semester started, my mom had printed flyers with my photo and distributed them to every shop around campus, warning them not to hire me for part-time work. She had cut off every possible escape. Doesn't she have good luck? Then let her live on luck. When my mom said those words, did her face carry the same mockery as Danielle's? I had explained countless times. I didn't rely on luck. Every award I'd ever won, I had fought for step by step. But she never believed me. To her, everything I had came from luck. One careless word that erased all my effort. The last bite of cake went down. The dizziness eased slightly. I turned to the final scratch card. One more time. I made up my mind. My hand trembling. I began to scratch. The coating peeled away bit by bit. My heart sank with each stroke. The final row revealed the prize. $20. My heart went cold. That meant until next semester when my mom gave me a new book, I had only $20. Clutching the ticket, I walked out of the dorm, heading for the redemption center outside the campus gates. Just as I stepped outside, a stern voice called from behind me. Elena Marshall. I turned. My academic advisor, Adam Palmer. When he saw the scratch card in my hand, the disappointment on his face deepened. Someone told me about this, and I didn't believe it. You got into this school with top 10 scores in your region. How could you fall into these schemes and shortcuts? Look at your grades now. You're practically failing everything. He sighed. You've let me down. Consider this a warning. If this continues, I'll have no choice but to recommend your expulsion. He lectured me for several minutes under the blazing sun. The energy from that bite of cake was already... I started to sway. Elena. His expression shifted instantly. Are you okay? When he saw how thin my hand was, he paused, then sighed. Come on, I'll take you to the cafeteria. Stop wasting your money on scratch cards. There's no such thing as money falling from the sky. I didn't refuse. Right now, anyone who offered me food was my savior. Dignity and pride meant nothing when I was starving. All semester, I hadn't bought a single proper meal. Just cheap bread and free water. I couldn't focus in class. The words on the board looked like swimming tadpoles. My grades had collapsed. So had my pride. After finishing a full meal, I finally felt human again. My steps steadied. My mind cleared. Thank you, I said, then turned to leave. Where are you going? He asked, frowning. I held up the crumpled ticket to cash this in. Otherwise, no food. Elena Marshall, he snapped. Did you forget everything I just said? Or are you trying to get yourself expelled? His face hardened. I shouldn't have bought you that meal. Maybe you need to go hungry to understand how serious this is. Give me the ticket. Cut your losses. He reached out his hand. I quickly hid the ticket behind my back. Sir, I really can't. I have my reasons. He slammed his hand on the table. You're beyond help. If you don't hand it over, I'll file an official complaint and put this on your record. I lowered my head, my nails digging into my palms. After a long struggle, I bowed slightly. I'm sorry. I really can't. Before he could say anything else, I ran. At the redemption center, the clerk took the ticket and rolled her eyes. Addicted, huh? What a waste of your parents' hard-earned money. Bitterness filled my chest. If I told her this was the allowance my own mother gave me, my only means of survival, she probably wouldn't believe me. Cash, check, or transfer? She asked impatiently. I pulled out my cracked phone, but suddenly I hesitated. I'm not cashing it, I said. I want to exchange it for another one. She snorted, tore off a $20 card, and tossed it onto the counter. You're hopeless. How did Westridge even admit someone like you? I'd heard those words too many times. From my roommate, from strangers. They didn't hurt anymore. I took the card, thanked her, and walked out without scratching it. I had barely taken 2 steps when my phone rang. When I saw Mom on the screen, I froze. It felt like a name from another lifetime. Hello. Her voice came sharp and cold. HM. I thought you had more backbone than to answer my call. The cards I gave you should be finished by now, right? How much did you win on the last one? $20. She clicked her tongue. Well, your luck isn't bad. You didn't starve to death. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Mom, do you know how I survived this semester? Eating leftovers from the trash. Today, if my advisor hadn't bought me food, I might have collapsed. I thought maybe, just maybe, she would care. Instead, she laughed. So, what? You're bragging about your luck? A kind roommate, a kind advisor. Elena, don't rely on wishful thinking. If luck got you into college, then it should be enough to keep you fed, shouldn't it? Tears streamed down my face. I got into Westridge through hard work. I never said it was luck. My outburst only annoyed her. Stop pretending. What hard work? I gave birth to you. Don't you think I know what you're capable of? Her voice turned colder. When I was pregnant, I even fell down the stairs a few times trying to get rid of you, and you still survived. If that's not luck, what is? My blood ran cold. This was the first time she'd said it so plainly. I had heard whispers before. She hadn't wanted me. After I was born, complications meant she could never have another child. My father left her because of it. Everything suddenly made sense. Anger and grief exploded inside me. If I'd known I'd have to survive on scratch cards, do you think I would have chosen to be born? Oh, now you're complaining. She scoffed. Fine. Next semester I'll switch to $10 cards instead. You've got good luck anyway. Might as well save money. She hung up and I knew she had blocked me again. Back in my dorm, I stared at the new scratch card for a long time. Finally, I gathered the courage. First row, nothing. Second row, nothing. Third row, still nothing. By the last row, I closed my eyes and scratched blindly. When I finally looked down, my whole body went numb. $5 million. For a second, I thought I was hallucinating from hunger. I rubbed my eyes so hard they stung. Then looked again. $5 million. I laughed. Then I cried. Then I laughed again so hard it scared even me. A few hours earlier, $20 had felt like the difference between life and death. Now, there were more zeros in front of me than I had ever seen attached to my own name. I didn't waste a second. The claim had to be processed at the state lottery office downtown, and I was too afraid to even breathe on that ticket, afraid reality would change if I blinked. I tucked it against my chest and started walking. I didn't have money for a cab. It took me more than half an hour on shaky legs, but I made it. When the money finally hit my account, I kept checking the balance over and over, certain it would disappear. It didn't. The first thing I did was go to the most expensive restaurant in the city and order, like someone who had just come back from the dead. Soup, steak, bread, dessert. I ate so fast people at nearby tables kept glancing over. I didn't care. Let them stare. Let them think I had no manners. Hunger has a way of stripping a person down to truth. And the truth was that I had spent months being treated like I didn't deserve to live unless luck decided I could. That evening, just as I got back to the dorm, my phone rang again. Elena, my mother said in a syrupy voice I hadn't heard in years. Sweetheart, did you win something? I went still. She hadn't called me sweetheart when I got into Westridge. She hadn't called me that when I won national competitions. She hadn't called me that when I was starving. I don't know what you're talking about, I said. Don't play with me, she snapped, dropping the axe so fast it almost made me smile. I saw the news. Someone in this city claimed a $5 million scratch prize today, and they showed the back of the winner for 2 seconds. I'd recognize you anywhere. My stomach tightened. In the shock of winning, I had forgotten to be careful. You're mistaken. I hung up. She kept calling. I blocked her. I thought that would be enough. It wasn't. The next morning, Danielle was shaking my bunk so hard the whole frame rattled. Elena, get up. Something's happened. Your mom is on the roof of the research building. I shot upright. She says if you don't go see her, she's going to jump. Every trace of sleep vanished. I threw on yesterday's clothes and ran across campus half-dressed, hair tangled, heart pounding so hard it felt painful. By the time I got there, a crowd had already gathered. My mother stood near the edge of the building, wild-eyed, screaming for anyone who would listen. My daughter is a gambler. She won the lottery and now she wants to abandon her own mother. A student like that doesn't deserve to be here. People stared, whispered, recorded. Some looked at me with disgust, some with curiosity, most with that same bright, ugly hunger people get when they think they're about to witness tragedy. I looked up at her. Then I thought of every time she had bet my life against her cruelty. And for the first time, I bet against her. If she truly wanted to jump, she wouldn't have made sure there was an audience first. So, I turned around and walked away. That afternoon, while the school tried to talk her down and manage the spectacle, I filed paperwork for an international academic exchange program. I needed distance. I needed an ocean between us. I needed a life she could not reach every time she smelled money. My advisor called me in not long after. When I explained the scratch cards had really been my living expenses, the disbelief on his face gave way to something worse, guilt. He stopped talking to me like I was a reckless student and started talking to me like I was someone who had survived a disaster no one else would have. The university tightened campus security after that. My mother could still scream outside the gates, but at least she couldn't wander in anymore. I was approved for the program quickly. My grades before the collapse had been too strong for them to ignore. And once I could finally eat, sleep, and think, I started climbing back toward myself. All I needed was a passport. At the application office, the clerk took my ID, typed for a while, then frowned. "Miss Marshall, I'm sorry. Your application can't be processed right now." "What do you mean?" "There's legal filing attached to your name." I checked the filtered messages on my phone. Buried under block calls and spam was a notice from a law office. My mother was suing me. Her claim said I was refusing to support her. She demanded the full $5 million, arguing that since she had originally bought the scratch cards, the money belonged to her. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. Then slowly, I started laughing. She had dragged me all the way to court over the same luck she had mocked. Fine. If she wanted a final answer, I would give her one. I hired the best attorney I could find. On the day of the hearing, my mother looked shocked to see I had legal representation. Then she pointed at me and started yelling before we had even sat down. I raised her alone. Now she wins the lottery and turns on me. That ticket came from my money. She owes me the prize and she owes me support. My attorney adjusted his glasses and asked calmly, "Your daughter is still a full-time student with no employment history. On what basis exactly do you believe she is legally required to support you?" My mother opened her mouth, then shut it, he continued. "And is it also your position that providing a semester's living expenses in the form of a single book of scratch cards was responsible parental support?" That made the courtroom stir. Then I said the one thing she never expected. The ticket that won $5 million did not come from the book she gave me. Silence. My mother's face changed because it was true. The jackpot ticket was the one I had exchanged for the final $20 winner from her book. We had the redemption records. The lottery office confirmed it. The original book she bought had cost $500 in total, and the amount it paid out over the semester was so low it was almost laughable. She had expected me to survive on that. The judge looked at her for a long moment. "Even if the winning ticket had come from the cards you provided, you explicitly gave them to your daughter as her living expenses. You don't get to reclaim a gift because you don't like the outcome." She lost every claim. Every single one. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I mostly felt tired, but she still wasn't finished. A few days later, while I was preparing to reapply for my passport, I got a frantic call from campus. My mother was in the administration office causing another scene, telling anyone who would listen that I had only gotten into Westridge by luck, that I was heartless, dangerous, ungrateful, maybe even a future criminal. I pushed open the office door and shouted, "Enough. What do you want?" She turned to me with a smug look of someone who thought she had found my weakness. "You may not want to give me money now," she said. "But blood is blood. If you refuse to hand it over, I'll cut ties with you. You won't have a family to fall back on?" I almost smiled. A family to fall back on? Was that what she thought she had been? Still, I asked, "How much do you want?" Her eyes lit up. She held up one finger. For one miraculous second, I thought maybe she was going to say 100,000. "Leave yourself 10,000, she said. "The rest is mine." Even my advisor, who had been silent until then, couldn't take it anymore. "Do you know this student nearly starved this semester?" He snapped. "Do you know she could barely stand when I found her?" My mother rolled her eyes. "I gave birth to her. I know exactly what she's like." I looked at her and said softly, "I asked what you wanted. I didn't say I'd give it to you." Her expression twisted instantly. She lunged toward me, nails out, but security was already waiting outside. They pulled her back and removed her while she screamed. That was the moment I knew I had to leave as soon as possible. When my passport finally came through, I booked the earliest flight I could. She still found out. At the airport, just outside security, she threw herself in front of the line and started wailing so loudly people stopped to watch. I raised her by myself. Now she's rich and wants to abandon me. Some passengers muttered that I must be heartless. Others looked at me and then at her and seemed less sure. I stood there holding my suitcase, feeling my departure unravel in front of me. Security tried to move her. She threw herself onto the floor and started sobbing that she was sick, that she might collapse, that we were all trying to kill her. I missed that flight. In the lounge, I saw videos from the airport already spreading online. By afternoon, she was live streaming. She had found some kind of beauty filter that made her look older and frilier. And she stared into the camera with practiced grief, telling the world that I had always relied on shortcuts, that I got into Westridge through luck, that education and money meant nothing if a daughter had no conscience. But the internet, for once, did not do what she expected. Someone in the comments asked, "Wait, are you saying one of the most selective universities in the country can be entered by luck?" Then more people piled on. Then some of my former classmates did too. People who had seen me study. People who knew I had never coasted on anything in my life. A college classmate commented that my mother had given me scratch cards as living expenses. Another pointed out that if I was truly so lucky, why had I looked half dead all semester? She ended the live stream in a panic. After that, she quieted down, not because she had changed, because public opinion had stopped working for her. A borrowed phone number reached me a few days later. Her voice was softer, cautious now. "Elena, I won't interfere with your studies anymore. Just send me monthly support." "Okay." I leaned back and smiled into the silence. "Of course," I said, "I'll support you." That promise made her cheerful enough to behave. I flew out soon after. For the first month overseas, I lived like someone learning gravity from scratch. I ate 3 meals a day. Then 4, I gained weight. I took self-defense classes because I was finally in a position to think beyond the next hour. I studied late in bright libraries and walked through clean autumn streets on a campus where no one knew what survival had looked like for me. Then came the day of the first payment. She called early in the morning excited. "Elena, where's the money?" "I haven't given you my account number yet." "Half asleep," I said. "I already left it in the mailbox outside your house." She hung up so fast I barely had time to smile. When I woke up later, my phone was flooded with furious messages. "What is wrong with you? Why is there a book of scratch cards in the mailbox? Are you doing this to get revenge?" I deleted every message. Compared to what she had given me, 1 book per semester, 1 book per month was generosity. I kept it up. Every month, right on time, a fresh book of scratch cards appeared in her mailbox. Not randomly chosen either. I made sure of that. Months passed, then years. I focused on school, on healing, on becoming someone whose life was no longer built around surviving another one of her whims. Then one day, my advisor abroad came into the classroom and told me my home university had received an urgent message. My mother was critically ill and wanted to see me one last time. I went back, not out of love, out of caution, out of curiosity, maybe even out of some final stupid thread of hope that one day things might make sense. The moment I stepped into the house, I knew something was wrong. A huge man I had never seen before lunged out from the side room and grabbed me. He smelled like cigarettes and sweat and bad intentions. My mother stepped out behind him, looking pleased with herself. "If you won't listen," she said, "then I'll find you a husband who can teach you how to behave." My skin went cold. She had lied about being sick to lure me home and marry me off to some widower from her hometown, someone old enough to know better and shameless enough not to care. But by then, I wasn't the girl who had nearly fainted from hunger under the sun. I drove my elbow hard into his stomach, twisted free, and kicked him back so fast he stumbled into the wall. Self-defense classes had been worth every penny. He swore, looked at me, looked at her, and lost every ounce of confidence. "Forget it," he said, backing toward the door. "Find somebody else." He ran. My mother lifted a hand like she wanted to slap me, then thought better of it. I laughed. "I called the police before I came," I said. "I just wasn't sure if I was right to be suspicious." The sirens reached us seconds later. I had recorded everything. When the officers heard her own words, clear as day, there was no way to explain it away. She screamed that I was ungrateful, that she should never have had me, that I was ruining her life. The police took her out while she kept shouting. She didn't stay in custody long. In the end, no irreversible harm had been done. But the man she had tried to sell me to spread the story all over town. She became a joke in the very circle she had once used to humiliate me. I blocked her again. And still every month the scratch cards kept arriving in her mailbox. In one of the strangest turns of all, she eventually did become seriously ill. A sudden stroke left her alive, but unable to care for herself. By then, I had been abroad for years. I came back only after finishing my program. I arranged the cheapest nursing home I could find. Not cruelty, not kindness either, just the plainest version of responsibility I could live with. A crowded place, basic care, nothing more. People sometimes ask if I ever hated my luck. I don't, because now I understand what she never did. Luck may open a door. Sometimes it may even drag you back from the edge. But endurance is what keeps you standing once you walk through. I got into Westridge because I worked for it. I stayed alive because I refused to disappear. And in the end, the thing my mother worshipped and mocked in equal measure, luck, became the blade that cut me free. She was right about one thing. My luck